You know, you hear a lot nowadays about cities, I mean, not even just Europe, but around the world, having over tourism problems.
It was a big issue in Spain. There's a lot of protests and such going on, which very interesting ordeal. We actually
Hmm.
had some sort of video that we reacted to, I believe, on some sort of issue like that.
But then
One
we
of
saw a
them.
lot of Spanish people when we were in London.
Mm-hmm.
Why are they protesting if they're going to go to London?
Yeah, you can't be a tourist if you're protesting against
Yeah, come
tourists,
on.
right?
Come on. That's just double standard there, Barcelonans. Anyway, let's check this thing out. 8 European cities destroyed by over-tourism. Is it maybe a little of a, clickbait title there? A little over-exaggerated? We'll see.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Walter's World. Today we're here in Dublin, Ireland, and today we're going to be talking about is over tourism in Europe. Look, there are destinations in Europe that are really overflowing with tourists to the point that the cities can't handle it. And I kind of wanted to talk about some of
I
those
feel
really
like
famous.
Europe, especially, the places that are over-touristed, though, there's a reason they are.
Yeah, yeah. And like it might be like a smaller city that's extremely cool that just gets flooded with people during the peak season.
I mean, like Positano, the Amalfi Coast, these places are like some of the most beautiful places in the entire
Yeah,
world.
some of the Greek islands could get flooded too.
Everybody wants to see
To
it.
talk about some of those really famous places that you want to visit when you come to Europe, but you really will see an overabundance of tourists. I mean, they're kind of a victim of their own success because these are all fantastic places, but I just want you to have an idea of where the ones I've seen the most over tourism, overall, okay? And probably one I need to talk about and one you'll hear about in the news is Venice, Italy. In Venice, you'll see there's
Mm.
so many more tourists that go there every year than people that live there. I mean, we're talking millions of visitors, but only like 40,000 inhabitants actually in the city, and it does get
It's only
overrun,
40?
especially when the cruise ships would come
That's
in. It became
crazy.
kind of more than the city could handle. And so they've limited where the cruise ships can go. And they've actually
Probably a
instituted
good
a
idea.
fee for coming into the town to kind of combat some of that over tourism. But yeah, Venice is one of those places you're gonna
That's
never
insane. That literally just must be, it's just a city full of tourists at that point. And I mean, it's cool. It's a cool place to walk around, but it's crazy how much you would probably miss out on some of the local culture. It's more of a tourist local culture.
Yeah, you probably have to get pretty deep into the streets to find where people actually live.
Hmm.
be alone. No matter how many back alleys you go into, there'll be some other tourists that'll pop up there as well. Another
I've been to Venice before. I got deep. There was nobody out there. I was deep.
place in Italy where I see a lot of over tourism, a lot of really like just smash in like sardines kind of places, is on the Amalfi Coast. If you're going to Positano or Amalfi, you'll notice all the streets you're walking down, all the steps you're going up and down to go to the beaches and stuff are packed full of tourists from Italy, from around the world, from all over. But that's another place. That's why I tell people, look, if you don't want to get run over and smash like a sardine in Amalfi, maybe try Puglia, another part of Italy. That might be another good place to go because it's beautiful, great food, and not as many tourists, okay? Another place that I see a lot of tourists go, and it really is kind of like on the over tourism board, but they've done a really good job of managing it though, is Barcelona, Spain. And in Barcelona, you
Nah.
have tourists that come
But
all
they
year
don't want us there.
around.
No.
So that's one of the things. So it's got great stuff all the time. And there's tons of museums, there's beaches there, there's stuff for everybody. Hence why everybody floods in. But the city has done a good job of kind of mitigating this by trying to get people to go out to other cities. Like, oh, go visit Girona when you're here. Go head out to the beaches when you're here. Have a day of culture when you're here. So that's kind of a nice thing. But honestly, when you go to Barcelona, you are going to be with everybody when you're there. Also, that's probably one of the reasons why it's the pickpocket capital of Europe,
Oh,
because so
wow.
many tourists
Man,
get
that's
there and you're
busy.
so smashed together, you don't notice when people are picking your pocket or maybe lifting your bag. Now, another city that is suffering from over tourism but is doing a good job of handling it, I feel, is Paris. And Paris has been probably the most visited city in the world for years upon years upon years because you have the culture, you have the arts, you have the sights, you have the people, you have the food. You have so much wonderful things there that people just love visiting, no matter what time of the year it is. But Paris has done a good job, especially with the metro system, because you're never more than 500 meters away from a metro stop. So you can stay
Wow.
outside the center and come in so you can really visit and kind of be less central when you
If we went there, we'd probably walk most of the time we were there. But that's insane. Every 500 meters.
That's efficient right there. That's how you
Yeah.
know they wanted to build it for the actual community that lives there.
I mean, if you go on YouTube and you go on certain areas of YouTube, they'll tell you never go to Paris. It's the worst place in the whole world, but still want to go there and see it. The
Yeah.
food, the culture, all of the things you can
are
see.
there, which
And it's nice the other ones being like the ones that he's mentioned that were managed a little better. They are much larger cities than the smaller ones, so you can kind of venture out into different areas and just get lost in an area.
They both of them. I mean, Barcelona's probably a few million, and then Paris is like really big. So they've already had to deal with tons and tons of citizens. So Paris is like pretty big, like close to 10 mil, right?
I think so, yeah.
And
Because when we were in London too, you get that over tourism feel, but it was literally only in the tourist
Yes.
areas. Then everywhere else would just be, if it was busy, it was a work area where people are commuting around or something.
I wonder if people like in Paris and in London know like tourist area, traffic, avoid this area, go
Yeah.
around that area.
Yeah.
Helps when you look at the over-tourism. However, when it is one of those things like the Louvre, like going to Musée d'Orsay, the Eiffel Tower, you will have long lines, you will have things. And I think that's something very important, not just in places that are over-touristed, but anywhere you go in Europe.
That always
you'll have
sucks
things.
too when you go somewhere really cool like the Eiffel Tower and then there's just a million people there.
Yeah, and it's all just picture, picture, picture.
And you're taking the same picture as every other person and you're in the background and everyone's in the background of your picture. You're just like, oh,
Probably showed up in a lot of people's pictures just way in the background. It's like,
it's probably us holding a camera in a
Yeah.
lot of people's
And I
pictures.
think that's something very important, not just in places that are over-touristed, but anywhere you go in Europe. If you can pre-book your tickets, it's worth it. I'm here in Dublin, and you can go see the Book of Kells, but you pre-book your ticket so you know when you can go, because sometimes things book out. If you want to go to the jail here, it books out. You know, they only let it 28 days before, and boom, they sell it very quickly. And I guess that's another city I really need to talk about. Is Dublin is another city that's really
That's
got
something
people.
that sucks for us as people that just kind of like to show up and do stuff. Is like we went to Beijing and you had to book to go to the Forbidden City like a month in advance.
yeah, that's crazy. I don't even know if we knew we were going there that
I
early.
doubt it. We just kind of show up to places.
Over tourism kind of thing. Everywhere you go, there are tons of people that are visiting here, going to school here, learning English here. And there's so many people here that it does get a little overrun. And that's one of the things. When you go to these places that are kind of affected by over tourism, it kind of takes away from the overall experience of visiting the country. That's why I tell people when you get frustrated with Venice because it doesn't feel like it's real Italy, or I'm not getting the best food, or when you're frustrated with all the people in Dublin, I don't feel like I'm getting that super friendly all the time awesomeness of Ireland. It's because of all the tourists that are there. There's just not enough time and not enough energy and not enough space. So it's something to think about. Now, another place where you're really going to feel the impact of over-tourism is Dubrovnik, Croatia. I mean, when you go to Dubrovnik and there are
King's
tour
Landing.
buses there, and there are tour groups there, and there's
Oh,
cruise ships in the
that's
port,
pretty crazy
the
there.
city is completely packed. Whether you're walking down the cobbled streets or you're up on the city walls, you are always bombarded with more tourists. Now, the thing is, the city's gorgeous, but when the
Yeah, I was
tourists
literally just
are
thinking
also
that,
completely
like in this
packed.
shot here, it's like, look at how beautiful that is, but there's a lot of people.
Game of Thrones did not help the over tourism for that place.
It gets something that's almost hard to handle. That's why that's one of those places, if you're in the evening time when everyone's gone back to their cruise ships and stuff, it actually is a wonderful place to be. And that's just it. All these cities are fantastic places to go, but if you can beat the crowds and not be there when it's super over touristy, it might be a good thing to look at, you know. But if you want to go to another historic city when you are in, you know, Croatia, when you don't want to be overrun by, you know, in Dubrovnik, you know, you can go down to Split, which is another beautiful city that you can go and visit. Now, another city that's been suffering
We were possibly going to live in Split. We actually were going to move there. And then the Airbnb, we were asking questions about the Wi-Fi. And then during our conversation, she was like, oh, somebody booked it. Sorry. And we're like, oh, okay.
We're gonna spend a few months there.
Yeah. Then we went to Georgia.
with over-tourism for a number of years and kind of put their foot down and said, we're tired of this, is Amsterdam. And in Amsterdam, they used to have the
really?
I Amsterdam sign right by the Rijksmuseum. They're like, nope, too many tourists here. And so they moved it actually to another part of the city to get tourists to go to a different part of the city.
I mean,
And
that's
the thing
smart.
is Amsterdam actually actively is not promoting to tourists to come there. Like they want specific tourists. They don't want general tourists. And so the city has done a lot of stuff to kind of make it more, not difficult, but more expensive or less convenient for everyday travelers.
Isn't Amsterdam like super duper expensive?
I think so.
Like one of the more expensive places to travel to in Europe? I wonder how it compares to London.
Yeah.
London was so expensive.
London was pretty crazy.
If you want to check out our travel vlogs in London, link in the description below.
To go versus targeted travelers. But regardless of what they do, Amsterdam still is full of tourists, and that's not just the red light district, it's also the museums. I mean, if you can go see the Anne Frank house, you want to book it right when you book your tickets for Amsterdam, book your tickets to the Anne Frank house to make sure you can get in. Also, your Rijksmuseum, time ticket for that as well. So something to kind of think about. Now, this past summer we spent in Greece, and there's actually 2 spots in Greece that really suffer from over-tourism.
Santorini, and
Just Athens then?
probably, oh yeah, because the Acropolis and stuff. It's got to be it.
One is Athens because people go there and they want to go to the Acropolis, and it's one of those days where it's almost so hot they can't have the Acropolis open in the afternoon.
Oh
You'll see the
my
waves of people at
gosh.
the Acropolis, and you'll see the people going through the Plaka, and it just really gets to be
Oh,
just too
man.
much sometimes. So one of the things I want to tell you, if you're in one of these places with the over-tourism, and there's too much there and it's really freaking you out, take a break. Find a cafe, go get a drink, get yourself away from it, or do a day trip from some of these places. For example, Amsterdam. Instead of staying in Amsterdam, why don't you stay in Haarlem or Utrecht? If you're going to be in Athens, go visit Piraeus. Go visit the port where you're there. There's some stuff to see there, and that can kind of get you away from that insanity of the over-tourism. And another
It is
place
pretty crazy how quickly you can avoid that type of stuff. Like, sure, you gotta go to the main tourist spots, but if you just even just go an hour to the next city, all of a sudden it'll just be completely empty and you get a completely different feel.
I mean, in London, we would go over from the main tourist street. We would go over 2 streets,
Yeah.
and then it would be empty.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's like, oh wow, look at this, another cool street that is basically as cool as some of these other streets, but nobody's here taking tons of pictures of it.
It's much better that way.
I think it's important to mention for over-tourism is Santorini. You know, the island with the white buildings and the
Oh
blue
my
domes. And
gosh.
I've always wanted to go to Santorini, but I've never seen it like live footage of how many people are there.
That's pretty Ubers.
The picture that everyone wants to take is going to be ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Man, so the only way to go to Santorini and have like a authentic, like, I guess not authentic, but like a personal experience is to book one of those definitely insanely expensive hotels that overlook the cliffs.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you're not going to get anything on these streets.
I wonder how much those are.
So
Greece. Yeah, I mean, that place is just completely ransacked in the summertime, like insane. Like, you can't just show up and get a place. You have to book everything beforehand, restaurants, doing things. I mean, it's insane.
Restaurants
And that's the
even?
thing is people sometimes don't realize that, yes, it's a beautiful place to go, but you do have to really prepare. That's why all these places I'm saying here, they're all worth going to. They're all fantastic. But you have to realize with the over-tourism there, sometimes the locals are a bit done. The locals like, look, you've made it so it's too expensive for me to live here too. And so there is some animosity sometimes towards tourists in these places. Like here in Dublin, the lack of accommodation is an issue, not just for tourists, but for the locals. So when you
Dang.
consider your destinations for going to Europe, maybe you think about the over-tourist kind of places that might be a little bit too many people for you, and maybe go visit those in the fall or the spring or the winter, so you're not like getting overwhelmed with the other tourists. So what are some places you've seen in Europe that are over-touristed?
that's very interesting.
Some fair tips right there. It's definitely like it can ruin places you go to when there's just so many people there, especially if you do like what I was just mentioning earlier, where you compare. You're like, oh wow, this is really cool. But something that's just slightly less cool has nobody there, and then you have it all to yourself, and it's so chill. Wow.
It's a tough situation. I mean, it's for a lot of people, going to Europe is like their once in a lifetime trip. Like they're going to go there once, especially Americans. They're going to go there once and they'll probably never leave the country again
Yeah.
unless they're going to Mexico or something.
So if something's over touristy, they're just gonna go and be part of the crowd. They gotta do it that
You
day.
got to see it. It's your chance to see the Colosseum or the Venice canals. But yeah, I mean, and a lot of Americans, they don't have much vacation time. So they got 10 days to go to Europe and they're trying to fit in 4 different cities. They're probably just going to hit all of the super tourist spots and never get to see anything else. Sad.
Very sad. Over tourism, places that I'm sure we'd still like to go to,
Oh, yeah.
but we will keep that in mind when we do travel there.
See you in the next one.
Goodbye.